Hello, folks. Good afternoon. Hopefully, you're expecting to be at our webinar that's in partnership with My Home Life England and Surrey County Council, which is going to take a deep dive into some fascinating research around how older people can thrive in care homes. And we'll also hear from that research from Surrey County Council and that research being put into practice. So lovely to see you all. We have both a chat function and a Q&A function. If you could pop your name and organisation in the chat if you would like to let us know, let our presenters know who's in the audience, that would be great. And if you've got questions during the session, we have got some time dedicated to Q&A, but we do also have a Q&A function as well as a chat function. So feel free to use either of those to pop questions in as they occur to you. We are recording the session and we will be able to share the recording and the slides afterwards. So if any of your colleagues, if you think it'll be useful to colleagues once you've heard our webinar and been part of it today, then that should be fine. We should be able to send it out to participants or give you a link to where it's hosted. So I'm Liz, I'm the Policy Director here at the National Care Forum. I can see lots of familiar names actually, lovely to see you, thanks for joining. And our speakers today, we're delighted actually. We've done quite a lot of work with My Home Life England in the past, and when they were sharing with us in a fairly recent discussion about this fascinating research that they'd done, we thought it would be really great to bring a dedicated session to members to hear more about the research. So we're joined today by Dr. Bethany Morgan-Brett. She's a research fellow for My Home Life England at City St George's, University of London. And she led on the research, so we'll be getting it from the horse's mouth. And she's got lots of research expertise in the experiences of ageing across the life course, in social care, also around therapeutic communication, end-of-life care, mental health, transitions, and grief and loss and bereavement. And we've also got Sarah Rajendram. She's a commissioning manager in the older people's commissioning team at Surrey County Council. They are increasing residential and nursing care capacity to meet the evolving needs of their local communities. And Sarah's got a background in service design and is passionate about bringing people together so that the services that the council ends up commissioning are co-designed with people for people. So I'm going to hand over to Bethany, and she's going to talk us through the research, some of the key themes in the research, and how they can be used in settings, in your settings, to support people and their families. And Sarah's going to give us some real examples of research into practice, I guess, which is what it's all about, isn't it? So over to you. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us your time, Bethany and Sarah.
Thank you, Liz, for that really lovely introduction. So hello, welcome. Thank you for inviting me to present at this event today. I'm really delighted to be here and, well, virtually see you all. And I'm going to present to you today on our research project, Thriving in Residential Care, alongside Sarah Rajendram. So as Liz mentioned, I work for My Home Life England. And if you haven't heard of us before, My Home Life England has 19 years, almost 20, we're having our 20th anniversary next year, 19 years experience of supporting the care sector. And we do this through our professional support and development programme for care leaders primarily. And to date, we've supported almost 3,000 care leaders
I can't. Are you sharing your slides, Bethany? Because I can't see them.
Are they not? Are they not shared? Okay.
They were up earlier, and then I think when we officially started, I was just looking at.
Okay. Sorry, I'll try that again. Stop sharing. Share.
Yay!
Yeah, you're back again.
Yay!
Okay.
I can see them now.
Okay, excellent. Good. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, so yeah, My Home Life England, we've got 19 years experience of supporting the care sector through our professional support and development programme for care leaders. And as I was saying, we've to date, we've had almost 3,000 care leaders who have completed one of our programmes in England. And we also have My Home Life branches in Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales and Australia. The other kind of work that we do is around community engagement, and we also conduct high quality research and evaluations, which is primarily where my role sits. Now, we were asked in 2023, we were asked by the Hallmark Foundation if we would help them conduct, well, they would support us, they would fund us to conduct a piece of research which would find out what are the experiences of older people living in residential care. And so last September, we launched the findings from this large-scale qualitative research project. And since then, it's made some real impact. And so we were very grateful for the funding from the Hallmark Foundation to be able to do this work. Now, if you know the Hallmark Foundation, they are associated with a brand of luxury care homes. And as part of the project, we did visit one of those care homes. But instead of just visiting care homes which have the greatest resources, we wanted to hear from a range of different types of homes. So we visited 16 care homes across England, Scotland and Wales, and interviewed 125 people about their experiences of living and working in residential care. Now, these homes represented all types of different care homes, from large homes, large providers, family-run small homes, those that were rated outstanding, but also those that were maybe required some improvements, urban, rural, coastal homes, those that were for profit, for charity, not-for-profit homes, and as well as faith-based and cultural care homes. But what we found is that across the experiences that we heard in this research was that there were some really excellent practices that were happening in all of these homes, and that older people were doing really well. And indeed, what we've described is that they were thriving. So I'm really pleased to be able to tell you about this research today and the ways in which we've used this work to continue to support care services to thrive. So we have a dedicated web page where you can find all the outputs from this study, including a full report, accessible summaries and an animation. And I thought I'd play this animation for you now to start with. So bear with me whilst I swap over. Okay, Liz, can you confirm for me that this will play? Are care homes a positive option for older people? At My Home Life England, we've conducted one of the largest research studies on older people's experiences of living in residential care. We spoke to 125 people across 16 care homes in England, Scotland and Wales. We heard the stories of older people as well as families and care teams. Our research reveals 6 key ways that older people can thrive in a care home if the conditions are right. Thrive relationally. Being around others was a lifeline for many older people who had felt isolated living on their own. Many had formed friendships with others and relationships with their care team. Moving to a care home had also helped restore strained family relationships. Families felt welcomed, reassured and able to stay actively involved in their older relatives' life.
Enjoyment, say good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. A feeling of that you're part of a community.
Thrive securely. Before moving into a care home, some of the older people we spoke to were living difficult lives, experiencing poor housing, insecurity, and even violence. Others felt anxious about being alone in their own homes, especially at night. Care homes can offer the reassurance and safety that some older people might need, and also alleviate the strain and worry for families. Thrive healthily. Care homes support with healthcare, including managing medications and noticing when things aren't right. Through care teams recognising changes and responding quickly, many older people felt that their health had improved since moving in. They also put this down to regular mealtimes and good quality food.
Well, when I was at home, it used to take me an hour and a half to get a cup of tea, and I lived for a fortnight on brown bread, Marmite, and oranges. I was lacking good food.
Thrive actively. Whilst living at home, some older people had not been able to do the things that they enjoyed. Care home activities and connections with the community enriched lives and helped older people to find purpose and feel valued. Thrive with dignity. Many older people found it increasingly difficult to keep on top of household chores such as laundry before they moved into a care home. They really valued that these things were now taken care of. Others had previously struggled with personal care, but now had support from care staff with things like bathing and using the toilet. Thrive inclusively. Care homes can be inclusive environments where diversity is valued and respected. We heard examples of older people being supported to embrace their faith, culture, ethnicity, sexuality, and gender identity. This also helped families feel confident their loved one would be well supported.
We have made an environment where somebody feels so safe that at age 82 or whatever he is, he's been able to come out. If this environment is safe enough that somebody feels that they can do that, this environment is correct.
We found that whilst care homes are not right for everyone, they can be everything for some. And when the conditions are right, they can support older people to really thrive. To see more and learn how My Home Life England is making a difference, please visit myhomelife.org.uk/thriving.
Are you there, Bethany? Are you taking us back to any more detail? That is a lovely video, by the way. I feel we should share it everywhere. Oh, can't hear you. You're on mute.
Thank you. I was just going to say big shout out to Amy Simpkins, who's on the call today, because she was involved in creating that video, and it's a really beautiful video, isn't it?
It's absolutely, honestly, it sums it up, doesn't it, in just a couple of minutes. The experience that your participants were able to share.
Yeah.
I might ask you a bit about some of the technicalities of the research in a minute.
Yeah,
but still, let's
course.
go through. I've got some questions.
Still struggling. 2 seconds. Struggling a bit to get my slides back up for some reason. Right, let's just take it one step at a time a minute. Okay, why is that like that though? I'm just going to come out of my PowerPoint 2 seconds because it's not loading properly.
Normally it's the other way around. Normally the videos won't play. So
Yeah,
I think we're doing quite well in having a successful video early on.
I'm not sure what happened there. Okay, let's get you back onto these. Okay, can you see them again now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So let's get back to where we were. Okay, right, so we're back on track. Thank you. So yeah, I'm. Oh no, we're not back on track. I'm really sorry. This is not right.
It looks similar to.
There we
Yeah,
go. Yeah, are you back? Can you see it again now?
I can
Okay.
see your opening slide.
Can you see thriving residential care?
Yes, we can
and
see
then
the 6
animation,
thrive
and then
things, then
six.
the
Right.
animation. So we're back
Okay,
at the
we're back.
6 thriving
Yeah.
themes.
Okay, we're back there. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to take you a little bit more in detail through each of these dimensions of thriving. So with Thrive Relationally, we found that, as it said in the animation, that we found that many older people had become quite isolated when they were living in the community, and that care homes actually created an opportunity to build friendships and supportive relationships with other people. And we found that care homes prided themselves on creating a sense of family, and care teams often talked about being a family. And also families, relatives described how the care home had often helped them to restore the relationship with their relative, which might have come under strain when they were living in the community, particularly in times of crisis. And they could go back to being perhaps a daughter or a son again, as opposed to feeling like their mother's carer. In Thrive Actively, whilst people were living in their own homes, some older people weren't able to do the things that they used to enjoy doing. And since moving into a care home, older people could start to take part in activities that they felt were enriching and enjoyable. And we found that with the right support, the care team from the care teams, that older people were able to adapt their previous interests with what they could now manage. So, for example, there was a lady who used to really love sewing, but she could no longer manage the intricacies of holding a needle and a thread. But the care team taught her how to knit instead, which she was more able to do. We found that many of the care homes were connected to the community, with visiting entertainers, faith leaders, educators and lecturers who would come in, and also people went out on day trips or even on holiday. And we heard in one story of an older person, after a visit to a local botanical gardens, declared to the care manager that this was the best day of their entire life. We found that well thought through activities and opportunities to contribute to life in the home were really important for helping to build older people's self-expression, their confidence, build connections with others, as well as having more choice and autonomy. We met a few older people who had been working in jobs into their late 70s or early 80s, even just a few years before moving into the care home. So they valued having a job role in their homes. And so it was particularly important for when activities created opportunities for older people to give back something, which helped them to feel valued, useful, and respected. 93-year-old Wally told us, "Instead of being miserable at home and nothing to do, there's plenty of things to do here. Occupy my mind." Now, Thrive Inclusively, we visited some care homes which offered specialist provision for different cultures and faiths, and ensuring that there was culturally appropriate activities, international foods, and language support for people for whom English was not their first or their preferred language, as well as multi-faith chapels. And we found that amongst Asian communities, there's quite often a high level of stigma related to having a parent move into a care home. But these Asian cultural care homes provided exemplary care, which was really important in challenging community stereotypes. And in these homes in particular, we saw wonderful examples of support that helped older people to connect with their identity through embracing their faith or their culture. Now, inclusivity involves making someone feel welcome, feel safe and valued and respected, regardless of their characteristic or their background. And we found that some homes were creating inclusive engagement opportunities, which enabled a full expression of gender and sexual identity. Now, I'd like to share with you this quite poignant and rather sad story, but it also is a story that demonstrates how important it is for care homes to create spaces for discussion around diversity. So, care home manager Victoria, she told us this story of a lady who we've called Joni, who had been in her care. Now, at the time, Victoria was pregnant, and Joni had asked her every single day, "Can I hug my baby?" And Joni would give Victoria's pregnant bump a hug. When her son was born, Victoria brought him into the care home to visit everybody and to have lots of cuddles. But Joni declared, surprisingly, "Oh, don't let me hold him because I don't want him to catch my disease." Now, Victoria was alarmed because she didn't think that Joni had any disease. She quickly went out the back, she checked the care records, and she asked the staff, "What disease is Joni talking about?" So, "What disease, Joni?" And to which Joni replied, "Well, being gay." And Victoria movingly described how she immediately handed over her baby and said, "Here you go." Victoria said she was 96 and she had never held a newborn baby in her life. She thought because her family had told her her condition could be transferred to newborn babies, and I was mortified. She described how Joni's family never came to see her because they were disgusted about her being gay. She also told us that Joni had a life partner who had very advanced dementia and who, unbeknownst to them, had been moved into a separate care home. And she tried at this time.
Sorry, I can't Teams you because I'm on a call.
Oh, sorry.
Where I'm listening.
We meet somebody.
And I want to listen, but
I'm glad she wants to listen. Okay, so so Joni had this life partner, moved into a different care home. They really tried hard to arrange for Joni's partner to come and move into the care home to be with Joni once they found out. But they found out that it would be too detrimental to the health of her partner, who died not long afterwards. She said, "We would have had her partner here, but because when she opened up to us eventually, it was just too late." Now, Victoria remembered how Joni had told her, "But we didn't live as wives, we lived as friends." To which Victoria had replied, "Because you had to, but she was your wife." And Joni replied, "Yes." Now, the importance of this story is about creating that safe space that someone can come out if they want to and have the opportunity to have their full expression of their identity. Now, taking this story or taking this Thrive Inclusively forward a little bit, one of the homes that participated in the original Thriving research, when I interviewed the manager of that home, she had said that the home was very welcoming and respectful of difference. But when we looked at it a little bit closer, there wasn't any real indicators that the home was an inclusive place. It was just something that they said. There was no visual signs of it being a welcoming, inclusive place in that respect. And the manager contacted us to let us know the difference that embedding and understanding thriving had made to one of her residents. She had told us in the original interview that she didn't think that there was anybody in the care home who was gay, but there was one man who would often repeat, "I like women," over and over. Particularly when he was distressed or unwell, he would often have a little bit of a mantra of saying, "I like women, I like women, I like women." And she did wonder, possibly, but there was no reason to try and pull this story or anything. Anyway, she wrote to us recently to say the following: "Whilst our home prides itself on being welcoming and respectful of differences, we recognise that some people in our home were not fully confident discussing sexual diversity and our visible signs of LGBTQ+ inclusion were limited. So in the summer of 2025, we celebrated Pride fully for the first time, and the impact was immediate and profound. The resident who had long repeated, "I like women," looked at the flags, he smiled, and for the first time confidently declared, "I am gay." His reaction highlighted the importance of creating a safe, inclusive environment where residents can express their identities without fear. Now, Thrive Securely. Older people living in care homes, their families, care teams alike, they all expressed that feeling safe and secure was one of the greatest benefits to living in a care home. Older people often expressed a great feeling of relief to finally be in a situation where they could feel cared for and they no longer needed to worry about anything. And many older people had told us that they felt most afraid at night time when living at home in the community. And one gentleman had said that he'd slept with a knife under his pillow when he was at home. But when they'd moved into a care home, they had carers around 24 hours a day, should they need them. And this was really vital in helping them to feel safe. Sadly, we also spoke to people and heard stories from care team members about older people who'd been living in some really, really poor conditions in the community, and some people who were escaping violent relationships and vulnerabilities at home. And we also heard stories of how living at home had become increasingly unsafe due to fire and gas risks as well. Now, this was a story that we heard from a manager in a rural community. And although this might seem like quite an extreme case, we also heard other similar stories from relatives in other care homes where prior living conditions of some residents had really been quite dire. Now, in this case, the manager told us the rats had eaten through the mattress. They had no hot water. They had no heating. There was rat's feces found in the home. The home was cluttered and the stench was unbearable. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible situation. The lady had a stroke and then was admitted to the care home later on. And within a few weeks, we had her sitting in the dining room having a tea party with her daughter. And you can see the joy on her face. And when she came in, she wouldn't look at anybody. She would close her eyes if you tried to speak with her. And so she wouldn't communicate with anybody at all, and she wouldn't look at you. She wouldn't do anything. And to have her now, where we have the team having amazing conversations with her, I think she was just traumatized by what her living conditions were. That, coming in here, she's cared for, she's taken care of, she's involved in activities, every single thing. Her life's done a complete 360, meaning that it's done a complete turnaround. Our fifth dimension of thriving is thrive with dignity. And we acknowledge that dignity is one of those important virtues that shapes all dimensions of care. But here we're really placing the focus on the aspects of dignity relating to personal hygiene and managing other aspects of daily living, such as household chores. Some of the older people that we spoke to, they admitted to struggling with their self-care prior to their move into a care home. And having support with this, support with managing incontinence and having easy access to a toilet was really important to many of the older people we spoke to. And one lady described the ensuite toilet as her best friend. And at home, many older people had to adapt their bathrooms to become accessible shower rooms, but they missed the experience of bathing. And so in the care homes that had the options of a bath, older people described this as a great source of pleasure. And some people couldn't manage their household chores. And so moving into a care home, they had help with laundry and bills. Ernie said, when I take off all my things at night, I leave them there, and the next morning they're gone, and I put new ones on, and everything's laundered for me. And if I was in a 5-star hotel, I couldn't get a better service. And finally, thrive healthily. We heard some really powerful and transformative stories of the health of some older people and how it had dramatically improved whilst living in a care home. So, for example, one older lady had been living with sight loss related to cataracts, and she'd not had her eyes treated because she was fearful of how she would cope after the operation. And so the care team were able to support her through that, and she was able to see again. Care homes were shown to have proactive and preemptive healthcare. They had easy access to professionals and to manage health and to review medication. And the number one thing that older people said that they liked about their care home was having regular and good quality meals and drinks. And then very finally on this point was that care homes can be places where a good death can happen through supportive end-of-life care. And one gentleman that we spoke to moved into his care home through choice. So when the time came, he wouldn't be alone when he died. So to summarise this part of the presentation, too often life in residential care is portrayed as one of dependency, rigid control, passivity and devoid of opportunities for self-expression and growth. And our research has shown that care homes have the potential to positively influence the lives of those who live, work and visit them. Now, our findings don't represent the practices that are happening in all care homes, but what we can claim is that we've uncovered in depth and on an extraordinary scale the many ways in which older people can benefit from residential care and the ways in which they can, the conditions under which they can really thrive if things are operating well. So this study demonstrates that whilst care homes may not be right for everyone, when they're delivering to their potential, they can be everything for some. Now, since the launch of the Thriving Residential Care Project in September, we've been really focused on ensuring that this research makes a real world difference. And one of the ways in which it's made a big difference is in Surrey County Council. So we've invited Sarah Rajendram's kindly joining us to talk about the work that she has done to use this thriving research in Surrey. So I'm just going to hand over to Sarah to talk now, if that's okay, and I'll put myself on mute.
Thank you, Bethany, and thank you, Liz, for the lovely introduction at the beginning of the session. So hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Rajendram. I'm a commissioning manager at Surrey County Council. So at Surrey, we have a strategic focus on developing care home capacity from our own land and assets, and also within the wider care home market to meet our future population needs, and in particular those with complex care and support needs. And the Thriving in Residential Care research really resonated with us because although Surrey's ambitions, like many local authorities, is to enable residents to stay within their own homes for as long as possible, we know that there will always be a need for care home provision. And the 6 key ways of thriving really illustrates how care home residents can thrive and live life to the fullest. So we use the research to actually shape our own co-design and engagement in Surrey. So at the beginning of this year, we spoke to over 90 older people, their families and care home staff. We visited 8 residential and nursing homes, and we listened to residents' personal stories about what they most value about their care, what matters most to them to support their well-being. And in Surrey, we were particularly interested in going to nursing homes and those homes that are excellent at caring for people who display responsive behaviours because of their needs, because this is the type of demand that we're seeing more of. And we also went out to communities to speak to potential future residents of residential care. We went to 8 Planning for Your Future events across the county. So Planning for Your Future events, they're the first of their kind in the UK. They're run in partnership by the council with Age UK Surrey, and they aim to equip people to make informed decisions at a time when they may need extra support. So giving them information about care and support options, costs of social care, and how to stay independent for longer as they get older. So when people were coming to these events, we took the opportunity to speak to them. We presented them with a list of different needs on a A4 sheet. For example, needs like affection, trust, independence. And we asked them what, at that stage of their life, what would be the 3 most important needs that they'd want meeting. And this led to really insightful conversations. So when we did the analysis of our conversations or observations, we found that our local research echoed My Home Life's findings that older people can be supported to thrive in care homes. And this was also true for those with more complex care needs as well. And we've used the 6 key ways of thriving to bucket our Surrey resident insights. And we've been using these to inform our residential and nursing care delivery strategy to ensure that our future care homes are designed around the needs of our service users. So we've been using the insights to co-design future care services with frontline practitioners, such as social workers and occupational therapists. So far, we've produced I and we statements in the words of residents and staff. We've been thinking about what daily life looks like in care homes if residents are supported in each way of thriving. And we've been thinking about how technology could be used to support residents to thrive with dignity, thrive securely, thrive actively, etc. So yeah, we believe that the Thriving Residential Care Framework provides a structured way for care home providers to assess what they do and realign themselves with the priorities of their residents and the residents' families. So we recently ran a series of workshops for care leaders in Surrey. We called the workshop Celebrating Our Thriving Care Homes. And we shared the resident insights, we shared the Thriving Framework, and we worked with colleagues in quality assurance and public health to share helpful and usable information in relation to the framework. We also invited care homes as well to present their examples of how they support their residents to thrive in different ways. So for example, we heard from a home manager about how they've set up a sanctuary room as a space for staff to decompress and have a calm moment. And then this then supports her staff to deliver compassionate care. And we heard from other homes how they'd successfully connected their homes to the community and different initiatives they'd taken, such as Pen Pal scheme with the local school, having a minibus to take the residents on trips, which all supports their residents to thrive actively. And we got really good feedback from attendees. They thought the framework's really informative and really useful in different ways. For example, one manager said that they could see how they could use the framework to help link different aspects of their care together. So all in all, the Thriving in Residential Care Framework and these research findings have been an amazing resource and tool for us in Surrey, and we're sure they will continue to be as well. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. Such great work done in Surrey. So we're really grateful that you're enthusiastic and confident to take this on and to use it to improve care in Surrey. So wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So at My Home Life, we've also been finding ways to that we can embed the messages of thriving in our own work, in our own sort of enterprise work that we do. So we've been embedding it in our professional support and development program for care leaders. We've been running dedicated thriving workshops. For example, we ran a very successful 4-day workshop with care leaders in Suffolk to help them to implement these key messages with different groups within their care setting. So supporting themselves to thrive as leaders, supporting their care teams to thrive, supporting those who are receiving care to thrive, and supporting relatives to thrive. Excuse me. In March, we ran an interactive half-day workshop on thriving with care leaders and senior leaders in Essex. And one of the comments from a leader about what they would take away from the workshop was to remember that life is not over when you're a care home resident. And if you're interested, we have an upcoming online workshop, and this will aim to create a greater understanding about what matters to older people in care homes. It will enable reflection on how to enhance quality in your own services, offer practical tips on improving care practice and service delivery, and how it can lead to a stronger ability to evidence person-centred care in CQC inspections. So if you're interested in this, the workshop is on the 19th of November, 12 till 2 online via Teams. And you can register your interest by scanning this QR code or just emailing us at myhomelife or mhl@city.ac.uk. So it'd be really good if we could see some of you there. Now, before we go, I'd like you to reflect upon what you've heard so far in this presentation. And I would like you to imagine that you were an older person about to move into a care home and what you would need to thrive. Now, this is one of the things that we've been asking care leaders in our Thriving workshops. And this image shows some of those responses from care leaders. And the things that they've told us that they needed to thrive included things like having their team made right, having access to music and outside space, having their favourite food and smiles, but also things like keeping to their own routine and not having to join in if they don't want to. And as a result of this reflection, care leaders also considered the changes that they could make to their services. And if you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a like scribbled notes there, but it says that they would think about employing a kitchen assistant 24 hours a day. That would be their ideal, but maybe a kitchen assistant with more extended hours so that a main meal could be eaten later in the day. And twilight activities, so that the activities coordinator doesn't finish at 4 or 2 or whatever it is, but they could have activities that run into the late evening, like a cinema club, for example. So what I want to ask is, now that you've had a think about what you would want to happen in order to thrive if you were moving into a care home, what small change could you make in your service to enable it to thrive? And I will leave you here. So if you'd like to find out more about the My Home Life programs in general, this is the QR code for all of the programs that we run. So thank you for your attention today, and please let me know if you've got any questions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Bethany and Sarah. That was really, really fascinating. It's brilliant to have it brought to life, actually, because I'd read the summary, but it's getting that kind of contextual kind of narrative that goes with the actually having done the research always gives much more insight, doesn't it? I think it's really helpful to bring it to life, and then to see also how you've been using it, Sarah. That's actually that's fascinating, isn't it? Because sometimes we have amazing research and then we're not able to actually act on it. So bring it into practice and seeing what difference it can make, I think, is fantastic. So yeah, there's a question about sharing the slides. Yes, we'll share the slides and the recording, I think. And there is lots of really good information about the research on the webpage that Bethany's got on the slides there. I just want, yes. Oh yeah, great. So Julie, who's on the call, said some of her care homes participated in the research. I guess there are a few. So I've got a few questions, Bethany. I've got a couple of questions for you, and then I've got a couple of questions for Sarah. If we've got time, if you've got time to hang on and just answer a couple of things. So, how many people did you manage to speak to during the course of this research, and kind of across how many different sites? I remember from the beginning you said that you'd got quite a good spread. So, how many folks did you manage to actually talk to?
So first of all, say thank you to Julie if her homes are participating in this research. That's wonderful. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, we spoke to 125 people in total. 44 of those were older adults living in care. Can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was 26 relatives, and the rest were care team members and the care manager of each of the homes. And this was across 16 care homes across England, Scotland, and Wales. Yeah,
brilliant. And were they all different kind of sizes and shapes and sizes, the care settings?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we had very, the smallest home I think has got 9 residents, a small family-run home. It feels like a family home when you walk in, all the way up to the very big providers who've got multiple care homes with huge care homes which have got like 150 plus beds. Yeah, so the whole range of different care homes we went to.
And what did you find most surprising about the research as it was evolving?
Well, I mean, I already knew that care homes were doing some good work, so I'm not going to say that was the most surprising thing, but I think there were some really incredible stories in there about how much people were thriving. I've told you in this presentation today about different stories of people who've been thriving, obviously, but there were some that were on this huge trajectory of thriving, from being completely unable to do anything when they moved in. A lady, for example, who had had a complete nervous breakdown, wasn't able to walk. She was in her wheelchair. Her family couldn't cope. She moved into the home. She learnt to walk again. She got a job in the care home. And I just couldn't believe the transformations that had happened with people. I think the other thing that surprised me was sometimes how shocking life had been prior to moving in. The story of the rat's feces in the house, that story there, it's extreme, but it wasn't actually completely unusual. I met one relative, actually. No, I met a couple of relatives, but there's one that really stuck with me, and she was I felt quite sorry for the lady herself, and her husband had moved into the care home. Her husband was in his 80s and she was in her 50s, but you would think that she was in her 80s too. She was in a bad way, and the care home manager was desperately trying to find ways of supporting the relative as much as the gentleman that was actually in her care home, by offering the lady lunches or meals when she visited, and just trying to support her as best she can without her actually moving in as a relative. Yeah, there was lots of things that surprised me, but
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say the other really big thing that surprised me was that every single care home was as unique as going into some individual person's house. I didn't, sometimes I think care homes are considered like this homogenous group where everything's the same, but every care home has its unique culture, its unique, its unique presence, its unique decor. Everything's, each care home is quite unique. I would say that.
I think that's a really good point for us to remember. I think when you've been into lots of care homes, you kind of forget that is true. If you see what I mean. Because I've been in lots of care homes, both when I worked for a large charitable provider. I think some of colleagues from MHA are on the call. Each of those were had their own character, but going around to visit our members, you absolutely get that vibe. Also, I
Yeah.
think you can tell a really good care home before you even stepped over the threshold, I have to say.
Yeah.
Even how
Yeah.
you get let in makes a lot of difference.
Well, yeah, there was one home that required improvement as a rating, but had quite a new manager. And from the outside, it may have appeared a slightly
Oh,
slightly
yeah.
less
Yeah.
polished home, shall we say. And in a quite like an urban street, it wasn't the most beautiful home. But when I walked through the door, the manager was just so welcoming and beautiful, and she had such a lovely way with the people that she was caring for. And I just thought this home is rated as requires improvement, but they have got this relatively new manager in here who is trying her very, very best to turn things around here. So, I saw some really impressive work, people who are going above and beyond to make a difference.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's a big job running a care home. Running a
Very,
care
very
home
big
really
job.
well is a huge challenge. But yeah, I don't think it doesn't matter so much. It's not the poshness, is it? It's the vibe.
No, it's the vibe for sure.
It's the vibe. And I think so. I was interested, Sarah. I mean, in lots of the conversations we have with policymakers, the kind of concept of people living in inadequate housing seems quite a surprise to people. I don't think it's a surprise to those of us who've done lots of different jobs, worked in different communities. But I guess from your point of view, you've been able to use this research to think about how you are looking to commission new services. So what are the things that you would be how would you help us to help other policymakers think about feeding it into their practice in terms of commissioning and policy design?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think it's policy design to make it the most effective and to ensure that you're designing something that's truly going to meet the needs of the people that are going to use the services. You need to understand what it is that's important to them. What do their lives look like? What are their behaviors, their mindsets? And this research really shows us kind of what is important to older people, people living in residential nursing care, and kind of covers those 6 different dimensions, kind of looking at their kind of like the breadth of care and kind of different elements of their life. So I would, strongly kind of, if possible, kind of do some local research to kind of going out to talk to your own residents, go out to your own services. Definitely use the kind of the Thriving in Residential Care framework as a way to kind of shape that research as we did, kind of to help kind of practical things like what do we ask them to write discussion guides, or kind of what are we looking for even when we're going to homes, and you maybe you've got your own focus in your local areas. So for example, we really wanted to, as I said in my presentation, to really we went to those homes that had really good reputations and specialised in looking after complex care needs. Do these Thriving in Residential Care framework findings, do they also kind of are they true for those people? So I'd say kind of look at your local nuances, I guess, and then work with colleagues in frontline roles and other areas of the council to really continue doing that loop of, okay, our residents have said this, we know that's important to them, how does this impact the services that we're looking to design, we're looking to commission, and kind of constantly kind of look back and forward. And kind of producing practical tools. I talked about I and we statements that we've produced from these findings. Also, we're producing a set of personas as well. And it's, what tools can we use as policymakers, as commissioners, that will really help these findings come to life, and that we can really help to use to make decisions and to put ourselves in people's shoes and kind of be empathetic.
What did you find most surprising?
I think just how as humans, we all have the same needs, kind of whatever age we are. I think, you know, to be known and to be truly known of who we are, and to be shown empathy and care. And that came out so strongly in the research. And, you know, just as you said, Liz and Bethany, you were talking about how, you know, the home doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be this luxurious home. Many of the residents and families we spoke to in Surrey were saying actually that's what they thought before. Coming into the care home, they've seen how it's all about the staff. It's all about having that compassionate care. They couldn't ask for more. And it's not about the frills and the kind of the posh afternoon teas. It's around that truly being known as human being and celebrated and given the care that they deserve. So yeah, back to basics, you could say, but yeah, really came out strongly.
Thank you. Maxine's popped a very interesting point in the chat that we don't potentially we don't measure what we treasure, I think is what that comment's saying. We routinely report on falls. We don't necessarily capture the improved outcomes of people. Yeah, and someone going in as looking like they're end of life and they're still thriving 18 months on. So I do think that. I think actually perhaps we could add this into our mission of really trying to get to some agreed outcomes framework. Nothing's perfect, is it? But if we all started counting the same thing in terms of outcome, even if it was just for a bit, we might be able to compare. The thriving research might help us, along with the Ascot measure. So I'll get off my soapbox. I do really believe in needing to just enable ourselves to have a shared outcome measure for a bit to see how we're getting on. So I can't see any more. Oh, thank you for that comment, Maxine. I can't see any more questions in the chat. Hang on. I can see a lot of love in the chat though. Lots of people very appreciative of your time, Bethany and Sarah. So thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who's joined us today. And my colleague Tracy will work with Bethany and Sarah to make sure we get the slides out and you are able to share this with colleagues and you can look in more depth at the research. So brilliant. Thank you so much, both of you, for giving us your time today. And thanks to everybody who came on the call. I feel this has been a really nice thing to do on a Monday. Great idea. Really heartwarming, really encouraging, very inspiring. So thank you, everybody. Hope to see you again soon. You take care and have a really good rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.